Caller, please state your name and where you're calling from.
Hello, my name is Matthew.
Go right
and
ahead.
My first question is, when the Messiah comes, will he come appear before or after the third temple is built? And my second question is, when the Messiah does come, how will we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's not going to be a false Messiah, that he will be an actual descendant?
Of both. Gotcha.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, very good. Matthew, let's hang up and sit tight for your answer, okay?
All right.
Okay,
and
my friend.
Once again, I just like to thank giving me the time, Dr. Tovia.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew.
I'm very delighted that you called. Thank you very much. So I'm going to answer his questions in order. The first question is the question related to the temple, the Beis Hamikdash. Will the Beis Hamikdash, the temple, be built prior to the coming of the Messiah, or in what order? The answer is that will not be the case, but the temple will be built or constructed by the Messiah in the Messianic age, and it will happen after the war of Gog and Magog. Don't construe going from Ezekiel 37, which describes the temple, that 38 and 39 follows it, so therefore the temple is built before the war of Gog and Magog. So all of my students know this, the book of Ezekiel, Jeremiah, and Isaiah are completely out of any chronological order. If you've studied the books, you know this. This is nothing to you. These books are written in a way that anyone would know it if you just read it straight. You know right away that there's no order going on here. Rather, the chapters are put next to each other, are juxtaposed for theological reasons to bring out a point. In contrast, Samuel, Kings, the 5 books of Moses tries to. They also are not regulated completely by order, because it also is seeking to juxtapose events, but there is some symmetry of order. There is none in Ezekiel and Jeremiah, except for one thing, and that is the opening chapter of those 2 books are in fact chronologically the first event in their prophetic career. Isaiah is not. Isaiah's first chapter chronologically is chapter 6. Setting that aside, Ezekiel 37, specifically verse 27, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, all describe the building of the temple, the Mashiach coming, and that when the temple will be built, all the nations of the world will know that I am God. In fact, if we read the last passages of Ezekiel 37, this is the chapter of the Valley of Dry Bones. What is the closing statements? When your sanctuary will be in your midst, then the nations will know that I am God. That is the key central feature of the Messianic age, is that when the Messiah comes, everyone will know about the God of Israel. There will be no dissent. People will make mistakes out of carelessness, will still be human beings, but rebellion will come to an end. The Jewish people will be gathered into the land of Israel. The 10 northern tribes, Ephraim and his companions, will be restored with Judah, his companions, which means and that's all very vividly described unambiguously in Ezekiel 37, the 2 sticks, put them in your hand, they'll become as one, the restoration of the Jewish people to their land. Read Jeremiah 16, read Jeremiah 23. So the building of the third temple is a central feature that will take place at the very same time as the coming of the Messiah, and will be that event that will trigger the worldwide knowledge of God. The question is, why is the temple so important? Why will it do that? Well, you have to understand what a temple is and what it means, and I'll spend 2 minutes on temple. Like, why do we need a temple? Like, why do you need a temple? Isn't God everywhere? Why are we building this temple? Well, we are creating the image of God, so we're acting like God. We think of the universe, we think of the time that we've been around and human beings have been around. We don't discuss the first 6 days of creation, but from Adam to us is not even 6,000 years. That's the reason why we have Shakespeare. We have Aesop's fables, which are very old, which are, I don't know, like 27 or 2,500 years old. We have ancient works, poetry, but there just is no Shakespeare that's lived 25,000 years ago. And if they found it, you can throw the Torah in the garbage. Just very simple. Though they will never find it.
Right.
So, okay. So what happened is when God, before the universe was created, God was really doing very well without us. He did not need the universe for his own existence. Rather, the world was created out of kindness to create a home for one unique creature, and that's the human being. The human being who is the only creature who's unique. It's not that we're like, isn't it great to be human? Like it's all created for us. Human beings have free will. No other creature does. Angels are have no free will. To them, everything is very, very clear. Animals don't have a divine soul. You love your dog and your dog acts in a way that you wish everybody else did. You wish all your friends were as faithful to you as your dog, but your dog doesn't really have free will, cannot really reject its master. It's just loyal because it's wired that way. It doesn't have the choice not to be. That's the way it was created. In order for dogs to be vicious and unfaithful, they have to be trained to be that way. They don't just become that way. That's not their default. Coming back, so what God did was to create an environment where man could live and then choose God or reject him. He created a home for mankind. He created a home for those who are created in the image of God. He did not create the universe for squirrels and fish, and he created it only for human beings. Everything else was created as a suitable place for human beings, okay? We in turn are created in the image of God, and we are creating a home for God, and that's the temple. By having the temple, we are acting as those who are creating the image of God. That's why the person who was given, the two people who were given the task to build a temple, his name is B'Tzalel, which is a compression of Tselem Elokim, creating the image of God. Ohaliav, meaning the house of God. So the temple is connected directly to us, mankind acting to its full potential, imitating God. And just as God created a home for man, we in turn create a home for God on earth, which operates under completely different laws that is governed by different laws than the universe. That's why the Bible tells us what's clean, what's not clean. We wouldn't know it any other way. So all these events will happen in the Messianic age. The most central is the whole world will know about the worldwide knowledge of God. Well, everyone will know about the God of Israel, and all will worship him. The enemies of God will be destroyed. We see that clearly described in Ezekiel 38 and 39, Zechariah 8, Zechariah 12. It's just too, the whole book of Habakkuk. I mean, just too much to enumerate here. Finally, his last question is, I know where his question comes from, and the question really comes from Christians. Not that the caller is a Christian, but that the caller overheard this from Christians. And that is that, how will you know that the Messiah is really from the house of David? First of all, there is no false Messiah in the Jewish scriptures. That idea is completely dualistic, pagan. If you want to find that idea, you look in the book of Revelation, chapter 13, you'll find your Antichrist. It's pagan. It isn't happening. There isn't a false Messiah. Now, the other point is, I think people are under the apprehension that when the Messiah comes, he's going to have some sort of diploma or like a driver's license, but instead of government issued, like godly issued, and say he's going to hand it like when you're stopped by a cop for driving 85 on 35, which I think is still speeding in Texas. So you hand over your driver's license, registration, and insurance. Messiah is not going to hand over his Messiah license. I love you guys. You're so cute. He's not going to go. I mean, imagine this, okay? The Gog and Magog, the nations are defeated. They come to attack you, they're destroyed. All the Jews gathered to the land of Israel. Temple is built. The Jews who've been lost, some of them for thousands of years, are gathered in. Miracles open before our eyes. Then the person who leads the way here, we're going to go, hey, buddy, not so fast. I know the dead have risen, and I know the temple's built, and God's glory is everywhere, but show me your documents. Don't be an undocumented Messiah. No, not true. We will know. There are hundreds of thousands of Jews today who are eligible to be the Messiah based on their genealogy. As it turns out, the tribe of Judah is huge. It just is a big tribe. Look it up for yourself in the beginning of the book of Numbers. The Davidic, I know so many people who are descendants of King David. Tons of, I have family members who are. I am, but I'm not a descendant father, son. My great-great-grandfather was. He was a descendant of King David. Rashi was a descendant of King David. Rabbi Gamliel, the great rabbi 2,000 years ago, was a descendant of King David. So there are hundreds of thousands of people who technically could come from King David, who could be an eligible candidate based on their genealogical ancestry. That's not what's happening here. God is telling us the Messiah is going to be a man, not a woman. It doesn't mean we're going to give him a test to see if he has a Y chromosome or not. This is information about the Messiah. And that is, God made a promise to King David. The promise is in 2 Samuel chapter 7, verse 12 through 16, that the Davidic house will never be destroyed and will be restored. And no matter how badly a king behaves, I will never take away this covenant. So therefore, when the Messiah comes, no one's going to say, hey, I know the temple's been built and all the enemies of Jerusalem have been destroyed, but I'd like to see your Messiah license, because I'm not sure. No, it'll be so self-evident who it is that no one will need, like, what will you show anyway? Like what? Like what would be satisfying? Like some scroll that like lights up in periwinkle blue? I mean, what's going to happen there? What will happen is when Mashiach comes, we will know that he's from the house of David. As it turns out, religious Jews who have been religious Jews since biblical times, many of them know they're from the house of David. That is not as odd. Now, Jews who are priests really know it, because there are many laws that govern our behavior that don't govern those who are from the tribe of Judah. But it's well known. But don't think that someone's going to go, whoa, not so fast, buddy. I know you all these things here, but I want to see what? Now, the church has used this. This is very familiar. This is a well-worn argument, because the church has said, well, we have the genealogy of Jesus in Matthew and Luke, Matthew 1, Luke 3, so we can verify Jesus' genealogy. I don't want to get into the fact that Matthew's genealogy is objectively ridiculous, because there's no way you can have a 600-year period with 13 or 14 generations. It's just not. It's obviously a fantasy genealogy. The Matthew's genealogy is divided into 3 segments. We're told of 14 generations in verse 17 of chapter 1. That isn't true. Matthew chopped out names and chopped out one too many. So you actually have 41, not 42. Matthew's genealogy, the first 2 sets are very familiar to us, because we have Tanakh, which we can test it against. It's that last set of names that become very unfamiliar to us, because there's no biblical text for it. But it's not like what? Like, don't you have your library card? No. Like, where's your Messiah passport? No, it's not going to happen. So we will verify it, because everyone will know. The world will have changed for the better in every way, and all the nations will point to the God of Israel and say, you are my God, and God will say, you are my people. So, of course, it will become obvious to us who Mashiach is. The Messiah doesn't have to, bring some, photo issued, government issued photo ID. That's ridiculous.